Hello, everyone. My name is Andre Hargrave, and we're just going to give everyone a few more minutes to come on, and then we'll get started. All right, we're going to go ahead and just kind of move forward here. And so I'm just going to ask if anybody wants to come on camera, feel free, right? We can turn the cameras on, right?
We can't during the webinar.
Okay, that's okay. All right. So I have a visual representation of in my mind of everyone, so I think I'm good. All right. So here's what. Let's get started. So once again, my name is Andre Hargrave. I am the contracted director for the Minority Business Development Agency in the Rocky Mountain region. I'll have a slide that kind of details my experience in those elements, but just wanted to let everyone know kind of what my experience is, mainly because the way that I'm going to talk about things today may be a little bit different than what you've normally heard. So as a business developer with over 25 years of experience in the governmental arena, we target a lot of federal contracts. We target a lot of state, municipal contracts. We do some Fortune level contracts on the governmental side. So the way that we're going to talk a little bit about contracting today is going to be a little bit different than probably what you're accustomed to. Okay, so with that going, let's get started. All right, so here's a little bit about the Minority Business Development Agency. We are the newest federal agency out there. Be it good or bad for the bureaucracy of the United States, we're not going to get into that. But for this purpose here, the Minority Business Development Agency, as I stated, is the newest federal agency. We became a official agency with a line item in the fiscal budget in 2021. Here's our declaration. But the organization itself has been around since 1969. Originally, it was a grant that was issued out of the Department of Commerce. Department of Commerce is still our parent agency. And so that is what the Minority Business Development Agency is. And our job, we're tasked with helping not just minorities, but social disadvantaged, economically disadvantaged companies expand through governmental contracting, international trade, and various other types of grant and tax incentive programs throughout the United States and our territories. Here's a little bit about our vision. When I came on 3 years ago, I set up our vision, our mission, and our strategy. Right. So before I came on, there was the MBDA for Denver did operate. It operated for 10 years before I came on. And then when I came on, I decided that, we need to have a clear-cut vision of what we're trying to accomplish. So let's get started. The Q&A is going to be open, so I'm just going to prep everyone and say, I only have about 45 minutes to do this presentation. So instead of having a slide for everything, every nuance that we could talk about, we're not going to do that. I have bullet items that we can discuss, we can lay out. We're going to talk a little bit about why we don't win proposals, or what proposals shouldn't we go after. So it's going to be more text and images, only because we don't have that much time. Okay. But if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Here's a little bit about my experience. I've been on a lot of programs that came through the state of Colorado on the governmental side. So the state veterans rep for several years, Department of Transportation on the federal side, CDOT on the state side. We go on and on. So that kind of lays out a little bit of my experience. As I stated, now I'm currently the contracted director for the Minority Business Development Agency, and we do millions and millions of dollars in contracts a year. And what I mean by that is we're helping our clients source them, we pull them, we assist in the writing, then we white glove them to make sure they're okay, we submit, and a lot of our clients win. right? So that's some of the things that we do. But one of the first things that I would like to start with is I want us all to get on the same sheet of music here, right? As a business developer, in the roles that I sit, truly at the end of each year, my year starts over. So for us to accomplish and help clients win millions of dollars, we really have to understand how the system works, not just writing. Because a lot of times people think it's just the writing, or you hear that misconception about, oh, people buy from who they like and whatever, whatever. When we're writing solicitations, yeah, that can come into play, and it depends on the size of the deal. But for the most part, most of our clients are winning, $1 million deals, $500,000 deals, $50,000 deals. We do actually help win, 10, 30, $50 million IDIQ contracts and those kind of things. But on average, our contracts are about $1 million or less. We just do quite a few of them. Right. So the first thing that we need to understand is how the procurement process in a very simplistic manner actually works, because a lot of times we don't understand that. So it all starts at the department, and I'm going to interlace some elements of things that we've learned over the decades that I've been in this industry, what I've learned to kind of help you all, right? So the first thing that a lot of people may or may not understand is that when an agency, any type of agency, or even a corporation wants something, the decision to make that physical effort to buy it originates at the department of whatever that department is. It doesn't originate in purchasing. Yes, there are commoditized products like toiletries, stationery, and that kind of stuff that the agency knows that it needs to buy on a routine basis. But for the most part, it does not work that way. So a department, let's say facilities, decides that they're going to create a conference room. Facilities has to make that decision along with engineering and those kind of things. But the facilities will make that decision. That's the department. Now, for all those folks out there who heard about sole source and non-competitive awards and all of that kind of stuff, this is where it originates. It originates in the department. So if you got a strategy to get to the department level to pitch and make your presentations, you will circumvent a lot of your competitors. But that's for a different presentation. But I just want everybody to know that's where it starts. Right. So if you have a product service that's proprietary, something new to the market, going to purchasing and contracting is not going to help you whatsoever, just so you know. Market research. Once that department goes to purchasing and contracting and says, hey, we're looking for this, then rules start to apply. Though if it's the feds, it's going to be the Federal Acquisition, not CFR, but the FAR, Federal Acquisition Regulation, right? That's going to kick in. So the agency has to get the best price. So what they're going to do is they're going to do what's called market research. Now, in the market research phase, the agency is actually going out to industry in various ways. It's not always what you think. Depending on the size of the deal, research could be going into a drawer saying, hey, I got 3 conference call company, not conference call, but conference room companies here to revitalize our conference room. That could be their market research. They could pull 3 to 5 of those and reach out to them on smaller deals. Or it could be the very formal sources sought that you see on SAM, System for Award Management. It could be a RFI, request for information. Now I'll share something with you. If you see a RFI, request for information, that's full and open. That's for everybody to respond to. But if you see one that says sources sought, that's just for small business. They're looking for small businesses that want to perform this function, just for your knowledge, right? Define the requirements. So they're going to do the market research. That research is going to come back and they're going to define the requirements even more. Theoretically, there's a defined requirements before the market research, but just for the simplistic manner, let's just go with me here, right? They're going to define the requirements based off the information that they get back. Now, when you start hearing about people shaping, scoping, positioning on contracts, if you're not doing it at the department level, you're trying to do it at the market research, right? So when that information comes back to them and they're gathering all this information and they go, oh, this company asked us about the quality of furniture. We never talked about that. Do we want high-level furniture, mid-level, or basic standard furniture, right? And maybe they'll define and say, we want mid-level. So then the companies that produce lesser, we won't call it lesser quality furniture, but less expensive furniture may then be positioned out. or vice versa, right? So when we start talking about shaping and all of that kind of stuff a little bit later, that's how this stuff kind of originates out of there, just so everyone knows. Then we get into the solicitation phase. That's when, and there could be multiple solicitation phases. There could be a pre-solicitation, a solicitation. If there's an amendment or something like that, it could reallocate, but we're just gonna keep straight through this, right? Then it goes into solicitation from the research. And depending on the agency and how the deal goes, there may be a pre-solicitation 30 to 45 days before the solicitation, right? These are all the kind of things that when you get used to the marketplace, you start to understand what these different these phases are, how they're used, and what you can do within it to stay within the scope of the whatever the federal or state regulation for purchasing is. Then there's source selection. So the solicitation goes out, people respond, you send your stuff back. There's could be one person, it could be a team, depending on if it's a commoditized product, it could be AI. Now they were doing AI kind of before it became like really popular. So there's different portals out there that's designed to and if you ever dealt with one like Defense Logistics Agency on commoditized products, you'll see that you put all your information in on a spreadsheet. You can't change the spreadsheet, most of it, and it goes in and the system reads it and it makes the decisions, right? And there's ways to maneuver on the system, but we won't get into that here, right? And then of course you got award and then post-award debriefs and all of that kind of stuff. So that is the basic understanding of how this works. Now, when you actually look at an agency, depending on the agency, we have what, 6 steps here. I've seen it where there's over 100 steps in this process, right? Now, a person like me is going to look at that, or a proposal writer is going to look at that to see where we can penetrate that process to try to get a better feel for it. And then there's different ways of doing that, but we're not going to share that online here. But if you come to the MBDA, I'm more than happy to sit down and talk to you and work with you on it. Right? And I see there is a question from Curtis. Sarah.
Yeah, so he is involved in a joint venture, a
Mhm.
minority member. He said he receives 15% of the past performance, although there's no delineation of work share. So he's wondering how he can resolve this issue with the agency and receive the correct percentage.
Okay. The first thing, is it reported in error, or is that the actual percentages? That's the first question. So if it's reported in error, right? Okay, you can pick up the phone and call your contracting officer and you can resolve that. If it's actual percentages, it can get complicated. If you are in a joint venture and you're the prime as a minority entity, you're the prime, means you're responsible, right? Your numbers have to be very close to what your contract stipulates as self-performance. It needs to be, and I don't know because I don't know what your contract is, but there's an element of self-performance you have to perform depending on the type of JV, right? If it's 8A, they're going to really push towards that 51% unless it's construction, and then there's lesser elements that you can perform. If it's City and County of Denver, that's a little different also. But give me a call after. My information is going to be at the end of this. Give me a call and we'll figure that out, right? So that happens a lot. We do a lot of joint ventures, mentor proteges through the MBDA and even through my firm. We do a lot of those, and they can get sticky because when you JV with a large firm, they understand these processes. And you got to understand, when you JV, it's about business development. And if it's business development, it's about who gets the lion's share. That's how these things work, right? And so sometimes as small businesses, we get ourselves where our percentages are too low because the big corp says they can handle this, they can do that. Next thing you know, they're running, 65, 60, 70% of the deal, and you're running 25 on something where you're supposed to be, you know, 49 or maybe even 50, because that's what you stated you would do. And then if time that first audit comes through, because that's what we're all fearful of, is when they audit our actual performance, then we have some explaining to do. So give me a call and we can talk about that. So first of all, we're going to start off with federal agencies, right? Well, for this session, we're going to do federal agencies. Originally, I was going to do both federal and municipal, but we just don't have enough time to go through all of these different elements, right? Now, as I stated, each one of these in its own right is its own slide. We just don't have time for it. But what I wanted to do is give you some of the things that I've learned. So just between us in this room, me in this room here, this virtual room, um, I sit on both sides of the fence. So I'm kind of lucky that way. Even though I own a for-profit company, because of some of our contracts that we hold, we're seen as governmental entities because we run these centers and that kind of stuff. So I do get to sit down with contracting officers, program managers, stakeholders, and we get to sit down and chat as counterparts, as equal, because I sit on both sides of the fence. So I hear these things because I'm non-threatening, because I'm also part of the bureaucracy in some sense, right? So over the decades, you begin to hear what's going on. So one of the things I want to first do is stop you from wasting your time, right? Because we're not going to win every deal, and a lot of times you don't win most. That's just the way it is, right? I'm a big baseball fan, so you strike out so much, you still hit a home run, you're batting 400, right? Everything's great, but you're only hitting one out of every 4 or 5 times you get on base, one out of every 4 or 5 times, right? So let's save ourselves some time here. Let's go through this list. Here's how you know when a solicitation has been wired or positioned or shaped. And each one of them means a little something different, but we'll just keep it simple. When there is a recompeting incumbent, so let's say it's a 1-year deal. No, let's not go 1 year. Let's say it's a 2-year deal, and let's say this acquisition has been made 3 times in the past, right? So 3 times 2 is 6, so 6 years. Same incumbents had the same deal for 6 years, right? It's been rebidded, and I know this is reducing it to the ridiculous, but bear with me. All right. So you talk to the contracting officer, you do you submit your Q&A depending on what the rules are, if you have to submit formal or it's open, right? And you ask, is there an incumbent? And they go, yes, Andre Hargrave is the incumbent. And you say, okay, well, how long has Andre Hargrave been there? He's won it the last 3 times. Oh, excellent. Here you go. So is the new requirement any different than the original requirements? That's a question you can ask. And they say, no, there's no difference in the original requirement. And they say, oh, okay, well, great. Is the incumbent able to recompete? Because maybe they're not. Maybe they were 8A and they graduated. Maybe they were this and they graduated or something, right? And you say, well, is the incumbent able to recompete? We cannot speak for the incumbent, but from our understanding, it is open and they can compete. Okay, nothing's changed in the solicitation. The incumbent can recompete. Okay, agency, why are you recompeting this opportunity? And you'll be surprised. Some would say because it's required by the FAR, right? Your odds of winning just went down exponentially because they had the incumbent for 6 years, nothing changed. Why would they change the incumbent? They're recompeting because they have to, because it's the rules. So that's one of the things that I would look at and be like, oh, my score just went down. My possibility went down from 80% because I'm qualified to maybe 60% because the incumbent's there. The incumbent's going to rebid. They're bigger than me. I probably dropped below 50 there. It's not worth the dime. It's not worth the time it takes to pay someone to write that proposal, right? And this is just my opinions out of practical experience. And I know things happen. But they happen both ways. I once had a contracting officer just straight up tell me, "Oh, we're just recompeting this because we have to," and they didn't have any intention of awarding this to someone else. That incumbent has been in there so long that their processes were developed by the incumbent. Don't get me on my pulpit, but those kind of things do happen. Set asides and contracting vehicles, right? There's this weird issue with these set asides and contracting vehicles, right? Last week this thing was full and open. They did their research. Okay, it came back set aside, and you're looking at this thing and going, "Oh, it's set aside hub zone, but it's perfect for you. But it's set aside hub zone, right? You're not going to win that if you're not hub zone. You can't even play. Theoretically, you can win. Did you know that? You can still win. but then you've committed fraud because you're not HubZone and you've won. And the agency, it's in the best interest of the government. That contracting officer is in the best interest of that government, not of you, right? And I once had a company call me who was terrified, and he should have been. He won a deal. It was in the millions. Come to find out, it was set aside for, I think it was woman owned or something like that, and it was a male owned company. And he didn't know what he was going to do. He signed. He did everything, right? Nobody caught it till it was too late. So those kind of things happen, but you got to be careful about set asides and contracting vehicles if they're not a natural occurrence, right? Last week, there was no requirement for contracting vehicle. This week, there's a requirement for contracting vehicle. In the solicitation, it says contracting vehicle will be considered. GSA schedule will be considered. Well, what does that mean? Will be considered, right? So then you reach out to the contracting office and say, hey, it says contracting vehicles will be considered. And they say, oh, yeah, we're just looking for the best way to allocate this thing. Your odds of winning just went down if you're not on that vehicle or you're not in that particular certification. Just keep that in mind. Unusual proprietary technology. This one you'll see a lot, right? So you will see a solicitation and it'll mention a brand name, right? And either you have the rights to sell that brand name or you don't. Some things are generic and that's fine, but whenever they'll say brand name or equivalent. If you don't sell that brand name, then and you sell an equivalent, then you have to justify that equivalent is exactly the same as that brand name. Now, there's a wash there. Is it worth going through all of that? Is it not? Reach out to the contracting officer and ask that very particular question, right? You ask for, I have a cell phone here, right? You ask for an Apple, right? I don't sell Apple, I sell Google. And they'll say, well, bid anyway. And let me tell you why. Because they need the competition. They're not going to award it. They're asking for Apple. The whole system is Apple. Just making it up. I don't know if it's real or not, but it's all Apple. You sell Google. Your odds of winning that are so astronomically low, you would say to yourself, why did the contracting officer still tell me to bid if I don't have an opportunity to win? Because they need the competition. They need to just be able to justify. Without giving a sole source or direct award or something like that, they have to justify these things. But I only have so much time, so we can't go through all of that. I'm just trying to let you know when we don't target stuff. And right up under that is brand name or equivalent, right? You'll see that a lot, especially on, like I said, on commoditized products and services. Commoditized just basically means that the agency has purchased it before, so they have an idea of the price point. They expect a reasonable margin, but they really know how much these things cost, right? And so those are the certain things. Now, I'll tell you this, when we're talking about commoditized products, if you have enough time, if they purchased it before, always ask for the tabulations of the previous award of this particular product and service to even let you know if you can afford to do it. Because you don't want to be lowballing the deal and losing money on a deal when you could have easily asked for tabulations of the original price point and they said, oh, each phone was, I'm making this up, $200, right? And you're coming in at $250. You're not going to win. You're just not. I mean, even with a reasonable margin, which would have been maybe 15, 20%, you're still not going to win that because you price yourself out. So always consider those kind of things. Another one that catches a lot of small businesses is understanding not brand name, but vague statements of work. You read it, and it's like the agency doesn't know what they're looking for. They don't know what they're looking for. But I have a solution that could possibly work, but they don't know what they're looking for. So most of the time, this is unintentional. Every now and then you'll see it otherwise, right? Where the opportunity is so vague that you can't make heads or tail out of it, right? And you think these are small things, but I have 300 companies in my portfolio, right? Everybody's not winning. And there's a reason everybody's not winning. So, I've had situations where I was going after something and true story, we went after this deal and the agency itself, hey, Sarah, I think I can hear you.
I got her.
Okay. The agency itself, we called and I was like, hey, this is so vague. doesn't really look like you're looking for anything. It's just like you're doing a catalog of the equipment. And the contracting officer says, yeah, that's basically it. I'm like, I had two teaming partners. We were putting this thing together. I'm just like, wow, saved ourselves a lot of time and money. So these little things like this is really what kills small businesses, right? Key personal emphasis, right? The agency is really harping on a particular expertise, which is unnatural, right? They really want someone who has this, and this, right? They do that for a reason. I have all kind of examples of that, but that's done for a reason. And if you can't fill that slot with that particular expertise, maybe a doctorate in da 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 da, architectural engineer that has 19.6 years of experience. You see all these weird things, right? Those are kind of shaped, they're positioned. You're not going to win those. Let it go. But a lot of times we think we can, right? But you got to remember the agency only needs competition. That's what you have to understand. Past performance requirements. Now, there is some truth that, yeah, you don't always need to have the exact past performance. That is true, absolutely. But when you see things that say, we want you to have 5 years of experience doing like-size project with a DoD agency in the northern hemisphere of the world, that's kind of shaped for someone, right? So understand these things. And a lot of times when I go back to our clients and I say, hey, here's going to do what we call gotchas, right? Here's a gotcha here. And the client goes, well, I think we can still write this. Okay, we can write it. And we don't win. You have to ask yourself, how many times can you afford to do that? All of these things are what really kill small businesses. They absolutely do, right? So why most proposals are lost? Let's talk about this. From speaking with contracting officers, I can tell you the number one and number two are at the top, right? Price. Your price is wrong, but that can be misleading. So your pricing model is wrong. That's probably what's going on. So let me tell you when we talk about pricing models. So there's a whole expertise of CPAs and accountants that specialize in pricing models, right? But normally we price our product ourselves. So let's go back to my mysterious cell phone here, right? So let's say that it's 200 bucks. I'll sell it to the agency for 200 bucks. Now the agency wants 20,000 phones. I cannot sell 20,000 phones to the agency at 200 bucks. It's going to price me out, right? So there should be an algorithm or a pricing model that's created that's actually what we call loaded, a loaded pricing model, a loaded price that used so that the company doesn't lose money, but yet and still you're pricing where you can be competitive. Right? It's an art to that. Why you lost? On more service oriented, it can be hidden anywhere within the structure. Okay. Your technical approach. This is sad, but a lot of times companies can't explain how they do what they do. And if you ever see me in person and I'm teaching a class, I'll use like a water glass and I'll sit it on the counter and I'll tell you to tell me how to move that. This is going to be your technical. Tell me how to move that glass. People go, pick up the glass and put it over there. That's not a technical approach. You just told me what to do. And if you can't explain to me how you actually maneuver your hands and put pressure and lift and all that, you don't quite understand how it's done. And if you don't quite understand how it's done, how can you write it and explain it to someone who's never done it or who has done it very rarely, right? So your technical approach on how you do things is the second reason most small companies are losing, even large companies, right? You know, they can't explain to a layman how this work is performed. Just think about it. Non-compliant with the submission requirements, this kills a lot of companies, right? And me and some clients, we've been back and forth on this, right? The agency will say, we want this, and this, and that. And the client goes back and goes, well, like we don't, they ask for 5 references. I only have 2, but it says you got to have 5. They didn't say 2 to 5, they said 5. Okay. If the agency wants to get rid of you, you're now non-compliant. It can be that simple. That's how simple it can be. You are now non-compliant. They could say, we want a hard copy, right? We want to submit it here, and and, and we want it to be recycled paper. Seriously, those solicitations are out there on recycled paper, right? And it comes in, it's not recycled. You're non-compliant. Little things like that. But yeah, you spent 2 weeks putting this proposal together or longer, but you didn't put it on recycled paper. They said they want it on a jump drive with a hard copy, sealed in a envelope, right? And you didn't do it right. You're non-compliant. No matter, even if you got the best pricing, just so they don't have any issues or anything like that with protests, you're non-compliant. Got to consider that. Management approach. You can't tell me how you're going to manage this project. I've lost several deals like that, where it was a larger project across the United States, and my client could not explain how we're going to manage people in Alaska, how we're going to manage people in Hawaii. Yeah, we can manage people here in Colorado, but how do we do it? And so the agency in our debrief just didn't feel comfortable that we were able to manage those folks, right? We lost on that. Lack of performance history, once again, it goes without saying. Um, if you
think we lost Andre there. Let me see if I can get him back. Let's see, while we try to get Andre back. Hey, Paul, are you on here? We have Paul from
Yes, I am.
B-Side. There, Paul, I know I told you I'm putting you on the spot to see if maybe we could get you on a couple minutes early while we see if we can get Andre back on.
Yeah, that works.
Okay, thank you.
Do I have the ability to share my screen?
Yeah, you should be able to share your screen right at the bottom there.
Perfect. All right, give me just 1 second. Okay. Can everyone see my screen? Okay,
Yep, looks great.
perfect. Well, yeah, thank you so much for having us. I know we've been doing this for a few weeks now together, so we really appreciate a few months, I think. We appreciate the partnership with you. I'm just going to touch really brief on B-Side Fund and what we're about. We are part of a bigger organization called B-Side Capital, um, and we are experts in SBA financing. We partner with a lot of different lenders throughout the four corner states, but also have our own um, direct lending group called B-Side Fund. And the mission of this group is to help foster the economic growth of diverse small businesses. And the way we do that is through a variety of different small business programs. And so our small business programs, loan programs, really come from a variety of sources. Some of them are SBA specific, such as the Community Advantage Program. Um, Others come from partnerships with a variety of different communities and municipalities, the state of Colorado, um, USDA. We get funds from a variety of sources, and so we try to deploy those funds to small businesses who are in need of financing and are not able to access traditional bank financing. And that's kind of our mission, is to make sure we fill that gap. Our loans start from 20,000 to 350,000, and they typically go to a 3 to 10 year term, depending on the use of funds. Um, Obviously, because we're a nonprofit organization, we do try to recoup our costs. We're a small but mighty team, and so our rates are going to be a little bit higher than what you would get at a bank. But our maximum rate is prime plus 4.5. Currently, the prime rate is 8.5, and so you're looking at almost a 13% rate there, which would be our max rate. However, none of our loans have any prepayment penalties, and we've done that purposefully because we want to get you over that hump and eventually help you either pay that loan back in full or have it refinanced with a traditional bank. And so, just going to talk briefly about some of the requirements that we have and some of the use of funds that we see most often. So, a lot of the small businesses we work with are needing funds for growing the business. So, working capital, maybe they need to hire a few people, maybe they need to spend some more money on marketing themselves, etc. Businesses looking to buy some equipment or inventory to continue that growth. We can either do business acquisition transactions. Again, if they're under that 350,000 threshold, and refinance of debt is a big one as well. I know a lot of small businesses start with personal debt or credit card debt, and so refinancing that debt and putting it into a term loan at a 3 to 10 year amortization is much more beneficial to save a lot of money. Some of our requirements are pretty straightforward. We obviously want personal guarantees for anyone that owns 20% or more in the business and pledge business assets as collateral. So, anything that you have with your business is going to be what we're going to utilize for our collateral pool. We do want to see some sort of equity contribution from the borrower of at least 10% of the loan amount. And that's only applicable to, if you're looking to buy equipment, if you're looking to buy inventory, obviously business acquisition. For debt refinance, we don't need that requirement. And sometimes for working capital, we don't need that requirement if you've already invested quite a bit of money into the business for the past 12 months. And sometimes we need insurance, specifically life insurance or an assignment of life insurance if the loan is very under collateralized, meaning that we don't really have much collateral. Let's say you're a service business and you don't really have anything except for maybe a computer and some desks, and so insurance sometimes comes into play. We try to keep the application process pretty straightforward and easy. We have an eligibility check on our website, bsidefund.org, that kind of walks you through, asks you some questions. And then if you pass all those different requirements that we talked about, you go into our online application. We start collecting documentation through our secure documents portal. And then we obviously review the application. There's a two-step process for approval. Our loan review committee has to approve the loan first. And that loan review committee is consisted of a variety of different professionals in our markets. Some of them are lenders, some of them are, they work for SBDCs. Some of them are professors at certain schools. And so it's a really great, diverse loan review committee. And last step is approving, closing, and funding your loan. If you want to learn more, obviously, I'm sure Sarah will share my contact information at the end of the presentation, but feel free to check out bsidefund.org. There's some great resources there in the resource tab. So you can learn about that. You can learn about our loan programs. You can learn about our team. I really, really love the resource page that we have on this website. It provides some technical assistance options as well. So it's not just resources for other lending institutions, but it's also resources specific to how to create business plans and things of that nature, projections. Um, excuse me. And yeah, this is B-Side Fund, and thank you so much. If you have any questions, our contact information is at the bottom. I'm Paul, and then we have Sandra, Katie, and Marie in our team who are processing these loans. And I'll kick it back over to Sarah.
Perfect. Thank you, Paul. Thanks for hopping on before you were ready, I know.
No
I will be
worries.
sending you a copy of Paul's slides and as well as his contact information, so you can reach out to him after this with any questions. We do have Andre back. Andre, do you want to go ahead and share your screen? I think he's going to stay off camera to see if that helps with his connection. Do we have you there, Andre? Maybe. Andre, are you on there? Shoot, we might have lost him. Oh, thought I just had him.
Okay, I'm here.
There we go.
Yes, yes. Let's try to get through this before, I guess, another lightning strike. I don't know. You still there?
Yep, we're here and we can see your slides.
Okay, excellent. Sorry about that, everyone. We'll get through this. All these slides will be available. Like I said, please reach out to me and me and my team, we can walk you through every element of this. We can show you how all these different elements work. So I'm just going to get through this now that we're a little short on time because of technology, and we will continue to move forward. Okay. All right, so quickly, in a federal bid package, these are primarily the three types of proposals that you will be dealing with. Invitation to bid, request for proposal, and an RFQ. There are other sub packages. There are combined synopsis. There's in an RFQ, you might have a FS330 if you're in construction and all of those kind of things. But for this argument, these are primarily the packages that most people will be dealing with. There's probably about 30 different types of around 30 different types of actual solicitation types that can be sent out, but these are primarily what you will see. Okay, now one of the big things is when you pull your RFP, state level solicitations also have their sections, but the problem is with state, they're very decentralized, so every state does it differently. And then every municipality does it differently. There are some common threads that run through everything, but for the most part, everyone has their own different forms and that kind of stuff. So that's why on the federal section, even though there's different types of packages, this is normally what we're going to be dealing with, some form of. You pull your RFP and you look through some bold, type in bold. And what these sections are the ones that are the most important. So section C, the statement of work. Do you understand the statement of work? What is the statement of work actually telling us, right? What are the tasks that's related to the statement of work, right? That we have to sometimes go back and forth to put things together to be able to make a cohesive statement. Then we have section L, which is very important. It is the proposal preparation and instructions to the offerer. How do you have to submit this thing back? Do we do it on a portal? Is it done online? Is it done through email? All of those kind of things are in the proposal preparations and instructions to offerer, right? And then we have section M, ultra important that most people don't pay attention to, and that is actually how they
I think we are unfortunately losing Andre again. Andre, I don't know if you can hear me. You're cutting out really bad. Andre is down in Miami at a conference, and his wireless or his Wi-Fi at the hotel is not performing well. So I apologize. I think we're going to have to cut this a little short. I will talk to Andre and see if he wants to run another webinar of this, or if he would just like people to follow up with him directly. What I will do is send out a copy of his slides and a copy of, a recording of the webinar this far. And then we will let you guys know what the next steps are. I apologize for the inconvenience, and we will be in touch. Thank you so much for getting on, everyone.